Morning, Amy.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Additions or deletions?
Not this time, Mr. Chair.
I need a motion.
So move.
I got a motion, I need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Looks like we'll turn it over to our administrator. Employee recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take a minute this morning to recognize one of our employees for their outstanding achievement. I'd invite Darcy Okerman, come on up, along with our sheriff. Morning, Darcy. Sheriff, hi, Tony. Gentlemen, this year, the Sheriff's Association took an opportunity to recognize our very own jail administrative specialist here. On September 12, 2024, the MSA held their 42nd annual jail administrator conference. Administrative specialist Darcy Okerman was awarded the Jail Support Person of the Year. This ceremony was held at Cragun's Resort. This award is received by those that show a high level of performance over a long period of time, effective communication with other jail staff, strong organizational skills. They improve the sheriff's office as a place to work and make changes to the management of work products. And I'll tell you, if you come to the Morrison County Jail, 9 times out of 10, Darcy is the face that you'll see first as she receives those into our jail. She's the face of the organization there. She takes care of things behind the scenes more than anybody knows, and I'm very proud that the MSA took this opportunity to recognize her for those efforts. And with that, I'll turn it over to our sheriff for any other highlights of the narrative that was submitted.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, as Matt explained, Darcy does a phenomenal job for us. The key words are going above and beyond, and that's what she does on a daily basis. And not only does she have to have good relations with all the law enforcement staff, but all the other entities that we need to work with on a daily basis. And I think everybody here can testify to that Darcy does go above and beyond, and she does a lot of things that she doesn't have to. She volunteers a lot. She does the sandbox. Phil kind of coordinates that, if you're aware of that. We work in public health. We talk about it every year where citizens can benefit from that. But there's a lot of organization that goes with that. She volunteers her time on the Polar Plunge and Special Olympics, and the list goes on and on and on. And these are things she doesn't have to do, but she puts herself out there. And yeah, we're just very proud of her, and we're lucky, like you said, we were fortunate the MSA received that and accepted that award, and we're all very honored.
Thank you, Sheriff. We all know that the strength of our organization is our people and our employees, and Darcy is no exception. She's a front runner and a leader in that effort. She takes part in other employee matters within Morrison County that benefits the entire organization, and we're just so very grateful for that. So although this award was presented during that conference, I thought it appropriate to bring her here in front of the board to be recognized for this achievement, as significant as it is. And I would just slide in, and if you remember last year, our very own Tim Brummer was recognized as the Jail Programmer of the Year. So we've got one heck of an operation happening in our jail that's being recognized across the state of Minnesota. So with that, before I turn over to the board chair, congratulations, Darcy. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair.
So Darcy, this is one place I'm either fortunately or unfortunately have never been up into jail, so I guess that's a good thing. But this is just something, again, our administrator mentions that the staff that we have throughout the county, and this is just showing the support that you get from the people up there and all that additional work that you go above and beyond. And again, I just appreciate it, and I'm sure the rest of the county appreciates it, so thank you very much.
I'd just like to say thank you for the hard work on such a difficult job, and we appreciate that, and your volunteering is exceptional, and you deserve this recognition. Thank you.
I would say
number one, the importance of your leadership within that division of our county, and working in an environment that's probably a lot more challenging than what most people, even within our organization, realize. Like Commissioner Wincher, I can't say I frequented the jail as an observer or anything else, but I can imagine the challenges that must come even on a day-to-day basis, but you rising above and running at an extreme level that gets recognized statewide, it means a lot to, it should mean a lot to you, but it certainly means a lot to our family here at Morrison County. Thank you.
Well said, Greg. Please.
Darcy, I just want to echo what these commissioners have said. It sounds to me like you're a game changer. Thank you for being there. You know, it's so easy for any one of us to adopt or to adapt to our surroundings, but it's clear that you've risen above. And it's people like you that make a difference and put a smile on people's face that don't know what a smile's about. Thank you.
Good morning, Darcy. When you're fifth in line, it's already been taken care of mostly already. However, I'm the one that can say I've got the honor and the respect of knowing you for a long, long time. And it is not just your personality, but it's your ability to share that personality with personnel. Whether that personnel is employed, another agency, or someone off the street. They see Darcy when they come in, and what do they see? They see personality, they see a smile, and welcome. You're always welcome at the Morrison County Jail. Maybe it sounds kind of silly to say that, but that's fact of life. You're always welcome at the Morrison County Jail, and you are a spitting image of you're welcome. Thank you.
You want to make any comments?
Sure.
All yours. The floor is yours.
Honestly, the only reason why I work so hard and do what I do is for my coworkers, for everybody that I work with on a daily basis. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. Can you get a picture?
Thank you for everything you do.
Congratulations.
You're gonna be up in the front row.
right next to
Come on up there, Chief. Maybe Sheriff should come on this side.
Go in the middle.
There you go, let her go in the middle. There we go, we can get it all in here.
Matt, you want to get in here too? Yeah, you want to get in? No.
Come on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a great day.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks for.
Oh,
that's right, yeah.
Joseph, I see you in high tech this morning.
I know, yeah, the lighting's a little better.
Oh, I see.
And he's.
Got a serious camera.
Thank you, man.
Gentlemen, the approval of a consent agenda, this will be a roll call vote. Is there anything that you'd like to have pulled that we can discuss at a further, this today? If not,
I'll
would
make a
ask-
motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Thank you, I need a second.
I can second that,
I
Mr.
have a
Chair.
second. All right, any more discussion? This is a roll call vote. All right, Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
Casper,
Aye.
Lemire.
Aye.
Zelinski. Aye. Myself is aye. Motion carried. All right, looks like, moving right along, Operation Greenlight Proclamation.
I'll take that, Mr. Chair. maybe you know, or some of you, and I know Commissioner Lemire knows, I have the privilege of serving on the Yellow Ribbon Network of Morrison County as the president of that committee. Along with that, I've got Commissioner Lemire sits it, as well as Crystal Kuntz, who's here with us in person today, our VSO, and about 10 other members that make up that committee. Across the country, NACO has initiated a movement called Operation Green Light. And the goal of that operation is to increase awareness and support for military personnel through service and transition. In conjunction with that, the last 2 years, I've come before the county board with a proposed proclamation of supporting this effort to be heard by the board. Yellow Ribbon Network of Morrison County also assists in that effort. This year, we've provided over, what do we have, about 700 green light bulbs that we're dispersing through Morrison County. We get them to the local VFWs and Legions and hand them out to the residents or patrons that go to those establishments. We also afford opportunities to receive those, and with our goal ultimately of turning the county green. So we are a very patriotic county. Morrison County, on average, an average population has about 6% of veterans in it. Knowing that less than 0.5% is currently serving. Morrison County is much closer to 14 or 15%, largely based on Camp Ripley and the patriotic service of those who live in the area. But we are absolutely a pro-service member, county and community. And before you today, I'd like to read the proclamation.
Please do.
Supporting Operation Green Light for veterans. Whereas the residents of Morrison County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the young men and women who served the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veteran of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county VSOs in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually. And whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Green Light for veterans. And whereas Morrison County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition should be granted. Therefore, be it resolved, with designation as a green light for Veterans County, Morrison County hereby declares October through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024, as a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Therefore, further be it resolved that in observance of Operation Green Light, Morrison County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immeasurable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence.
Gentlemen, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve,
I have a motion, I need a second. I have the second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for that.
Welcome, Mr. Chair. Can we get a photo?
I guess I would love to have a photo.
Come on up, Crystal. Yeah, we got green bulbs.
You get some bulbs?
That's my reminder to shake everybody else down.
I got shook down already.
Did you?
Wonderful.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I don't need to hold it.
Let's get up front there.
Right there.
Right, everybody.
No.
You can sneak
You're
around.
fine, you're fine.
Picture with the Buck Slayer.
Yeah.
One more.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
You too, guys.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, moving again, we have someone here from Lake Alexander Lid. Please come up. Have a chair, state your name, and tell us what you have for us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Dr. Bill Faber. I am today I'm representing the Lake Alexander Lake Improvement District. I am the chair for said organization, and I'm here to present our request for your support for our 2025 assessment for our property owners on Lake Alexander. A little bit of history. This is the first time I've been in this position, not position as chair, but position to present the assessment to you. And yet my history with the Lake Improvement District goes back to 2006 when the LID was formed, when Tim Hool was the county administrator. That's before many of your times, not all of you, but anyways, he was the chair of our organization when we were formed. Chuck Forsch was in the position that Amy is today. Some of you still remember Chuck. I see him quite often out at Eagles Landing Golf Course. He's spending his retirement playing a lot of golf. Anyways, I say that just because I've been on the lake since 1972 when my parents rented and then became permanent residents there in 79. I took over that in 1999 when I took over the house from my parents. So I've got a long history on the lake and a long history with the Lake Improvement District. I've only not been on the board for 2 years in the past 18 years. So when I talk to you fellas, and I think many of the fellas anyways know my background, my professional background is I'm a professional educator in natural resources and wildlife, have been for 25 years. So when I talk about these things, it's because I have a background in what we're going to be talking about today with our assessment and so on. So I guess you've got the numbers up there. I haven't been here before, so I wasn't sure what Ron Weber, who has been our treasurer for the past about 10 years, he's the one that's come and done this. He left a little earlier this year for his winter retreat in Arizona, so I said I'd be happy to come here and present this. And I know this is one of your most important tasks this day is to approve our assessment, so I appreciate hearing me out. The numbers are pretty straightforward. If you're looking at them, I'll run down. They're very similar to last year's, a little bit of a change from the year previous in that, as far as the liabilities, projected expenses, projected revenues, and so on. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll explain some of the reasons why we have a pretty high balance, arguably greater than we see for our other sister lakes in the Lincoln Lakes area, which includes Crook, Neck, Fish Trap, and Chaminade. And I'm quite familiar with what they do and their numbers and all of this stuff because I've worked with them through all the years being on the LID board for Lake Alexander. So we look at our assets, liabilities, and this was we had our annual meeting this year again in August, second week in August, second Saturday. So these numbers are from that date, moving to the end of the year, and then projecting forward for the year of 2025. Quite similar assets, cash on hand, just under 190K. We've got our second half liabilities, which was just under 42,000. We include in that, which we've done, which is unlike any of the other lakes in our area, is this bog cost or potential cost. And the history behind that, and some of you may remember, some of you may not know. So over the last, one of the things we added in the charter for the Lake Improvement District when we were formed was floating bogs. And in the years that I've been on the board, say I think it's 2012 and again in 2017, we had 2 large bogs. One that ended up on the east end axis of the lake that ended up costing the Lake Improvement District just under $70,000, okay, which is more than we spend now total for our annual costs to treat curly-leaf pondweed, which is abbreviated CLP, and Eurasia water milfoil, which is abbreviated EWM. And so we had that cost. It was fortunate we had that extra money in our budget, which is part of the reason we keep a higher balance than maybe our other lakes do. They've never had any bog issues because they don't really have them. When I say floating bogs, they're cattail bogs that we have lots of, I should say, in the lake. Then again in 2017 or 2018, we spend actually more money, probably upwards of 80 or 90,000. So just those costs alone, and those are unknown costs. those just happened. And the second bog occurred in November of the year. They call it Billy Bog after me for some odd reason. But anyways, the size of that bog was probably, when it was measured, was 300 feet by probably 700 feet. And so we pulled out, that bog alone cost, the cost was hauling it out and distributing it on some properties around. We had local farmers and so on. And Kenny Zeta had a pit that he uses, a gravel pit. We were able to put some of that material. So the cost was 5 days of closing down the little spot in front of the, what at that time was the Castaway Restaurant, to take that bog out. 10 hours a day for 5 days. There were 600 15-yard dump truck loads of material taken out. That's a lot of material. There's probably no other lake in they had a bog up in Osawatomie here a few years back. They have no lid. They don't have a lake improvement district. The property owners had to bear that cost. And it sat there for 6 months. We were out in less than a month from when the bog broke loose and when it floated across the lake. Fortunately, there was only one dock still in the lake at that time, so we didn't have any added costs for that sort of thing, and nor did the homeowners. And I say that again because those are unknown costs that we still plan for because of these two big bogs we've had, in case you're wondering. Looking at our projected 25 budget hasn't changed. The one change we do have every year is the cost of the chemicals to treat the two aquatic invasive species that we have, as I mentioned, CLP, curly-leaf pondweed, and Eurasian water milfoil. Those costs went up considerably. They tend to go up in bunches on one time rather than each year. They go up $10. We pay by the poundage, I think, of the amount of chemical we have to, which then the cost of that is based on how much of each of these two culprits, if you will, that we have in the lake, curly-leaf pondweed and Eurasian water milfoil. Again, just for information, I don't know how much Ron has explained to you in previous years, but I want to make sure we cover it. I think it's that important that you understand what we've tried to do. I think we've had a very successful program over the last 18 years in controlling. Right now, we will never expect to get rid of these enemies in the lake. I should say enemies in the sense that they cause problems for our recreational users, our boaters and so on. They're not bad for the lake. At least Eurasian water milfoil and curly pondweed. They create structure for fish. The problem is that they take over from the native vegetation, and especially Eurasian water milfoil does create major issues when it floats to the surface at the end of the summer, and you can't boat through it and these sorts of things. It has caused deaths in other lakes when people got tangled in the weeds diving in for getting a soccer ball that happened on Lake Minnetonka and so on. So we understand the risks that having these in the lake in those kinds of quantities. We haven't had that for about 15 years since we started treating them, because we have the chemicals we use. Aquathol is the one, in case you wonder or care. That's what we use to treat, I think, the curly-leaf pondweed, which is an early treatment, occurs about just after ice out, when water gets up to about 55 degrees. It's done about the middle of May. Then Eurasian water milfoil, we don't treat it till it's almost topping out, which is generally early, mid-August, depending on how warm the water gets. So then it's treated then. So we just treated it here about a month and a half, 2 months ago. Again, now because of the success of the program with these chemicals, our acreage of these two aquatic invasive species, the acreage has not changed, basically 5% per year for the curly-leaf pondweed. It's at about 20 to 25 acres. We treated just under 20 acres this year, basically the same spots. The chemical does not work as effectively, the Aquathol that we have, in knocking it back year to year. It knocks it back for the year, and then it comes back again after the ice out. Eurasian water milfoil, we've been successful, the highest, and again, this is before some of your time, back in the mid-2000s and into the 2010s, we treated over 120 acres. Okay, now we're treated this year 30. Okay, so we've been successful. The lake provider, the lake service provider that we use out of Rogers, called Lake Restoration Incorporated, has their program of treatment of the Eurasian water milfoil has been worked really well because the chemicals are that effective. They knock the weeds back for sometimes up to 5 or 6 years. But that's not a guarantee. There's a lot of other things, winter weather, snow cover, and all of these things, and I won't get into all the details of that, but I could share those if you wanted to know. Anyways, this year we had kind of the issue last year was that we had heard from a lot of our lake owners that there was a lot of topping out of vegetation. I specifically say vegetation because a lot of it was native plants. It wasn't our Eurasian water milfoil, but I had to explain it to a lot of our homeowners that called and said, why are we not treating all of this? Most of it was actually native vegetation because the lake was down a foot. So a lot of the things that don't make it up to the surface of the water, they're considered submergent vegetation. They made it to the surface because the water dropped down, so the tops got out. I said most of it was not Eurasian water milfoil. In our surveys that we have a company out of Cass County that does our surveys of each, which we do every year. We do surveys both for curly-leaf in the spring, early spring before we treat, so we know what we're treating, and the same for our Eurasian water milfoil, showed that almost all of that vegetation was native vegetation, not Eurasian water milfoil. We treated those 30 acres, and the same this year. Now, we didn't have much less vegetation topping out because we had a foot more water. So we treated the 30 acres, and so then, but the costs were higher 3 years ago because all of these treatments we had had for the 5 years previous, all of those came back again. One of the things that you may not understand is that, and many of our homeowners unfortunately don't understand, is that we only treat those areas that the DNR specifically allows us to treat, which create access issues for property owners, not areas, we have areas in the lake that have never been treated. So we always have the base of Eurasian water milfoil there, which then when people boat over it, the pieces break loose, which is how it distributes itself as they float on the water, and then they reestablish themselves. So we will never be rid of Eurasian water milfoil, right, with the chemicals we're using now and the program that we have and what gets treated and what doesn't get treated. So we know that, I know that, and you have to explain that to our homeowners so they understand why then some years there's an outbreak, if you will, because of the conditions are correct and so on. So we treated almost twice as much about 3 years back. So again, we try and plan that into our budgeting so that if it happens, you have to have the money. We can't borrow money or do any of these other things. We don't want to. We want to have money. So again, I know that's been a concern with the folks, with our commissioners talking about why sometimes do we jump up from $10 to $200. It's because these increased costs came in. The year previous, we've always had the budget high, or our money that's in the bank at the end of the year coming up on January 1st because increased costs for chemicals, increased acreage of especially Eurasian water milfoil, and then floating bogs. Now, I will say about the floating bogs, again, because I live on the lake, I go around the lake a lot, the amount of floating cattail bogs in the lake has gone down significantly because they build up over time, over decades of time. Many of you, I'm sure, understand, you hear a lot about invasive cattails. They're hybrids between the two species that we have, which is broadleaf and narrowleaf. Narrowleaf is a plant that was brought in, and the broadleaf is the one we have, but now it's showing up everywhere. Ditches, any place there's water, it will show up, and it's getting to be a major ecosystem disaster out there. We don't have it anymore because it's gone. And that's unfortunate because they do a lot of filtration of toxins in the lake, heavy metals, and all of these other things. So actually, they're good things in the lake. But now that they're gone, we haven't seen any decline in water quality because we do those tests on behalf of the Property Owners Association each year as well. So, that being said, I'll stop for a minute. You guys got any questions? Ladies, I forget there's gals in here too.
Commissioner Lemire.
I'll make a motion to approve Lake Alexander's LID budget, performance plan, and levy for 2025.
I need a second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Zelinski.
I just have a quick question. First of all, Doctor, I have to just tell you that I'm very impressed on what I'm seeing. This piece of paper might be full, but it's full, extremely easy to read. I understand it very clearly because maybe it's seventh grade math. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just right here in front. Bog-free, kinda, sorta, not
Yes.
really, but kinda, but bogs is where I'm going with this, is that I have to hand it to everybody on Lake Alec to come together to understand that it's good today, but it might not be good tomorrow, and we need to be prepared. That's really the only comment that I have. I think that is so impressive that you've got a lake association that says, you know what, we could be forward thinkers, or we could be in the back of the room thinkers. You got forward thinkers here. I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
I got a question. You mentioned it goes up from $10 to $200. Your assessment last year was not $10.
No, it was 200, it was $10 the year before that.
Okay, all right. And then my last question is, you have a voter registration on the lake, on the lid, looks like 400 and some people, correct?
About 485, I think this year's just a little more.
At your annual meeting, how many voted for this? Do you have those numbers at all?
I do. That's the interesting thing, that you asked that. So we have our Lake Improvement District meeting follows our Property Owner Association meeting. We have about 75% of our LID people, which is everybody that owns littoral property, is required to be, which is 485. We have about, this year, we've got 350, so we still have 75% of the people that volunteer to pay $15 a year. They all come to the property owners meeting because it's the first one, starts at 9. We had just over 100 people, which is about what we've had for, I've been on the property owners longer than the LID. That's about what we have. We have the LID meeting 15 minutes after, you know how many stay? About 40. That's the number. It's been about that every year. And the LID laws, as I'm sure you might understand, you have to be present at the annual meeting. We don't do Zoom or any of that sort of thing. And the 40 people that are there are the ones who get to vote, and it's 100% have voted. But we've never had any else. If it was an issue, the very first time we had the very first LID annual meeting, there was 100 people, and everyone was, up in arms about why we were doing this, everything. Now we've had, our compliance, if you can call it that, is 90-some%. Never, just people, and they are the ones that vote for that, the increase or whatever. Why do we keep so much? We have a couple of people that ask. It's brought up, so it's not only you guys maybe that might question. We say, and when you explain this to them, because many people have never been to a meeting, I don't know if they read our 2 newsletters a year or anything, so
Good
that's why.
explanation. Commissioner Blaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Bill, you and I, we go back a long ways. Michelle sends her greetings to you.
Thank you.
But I have to say, you mentioned before you've never been here to do this presentation on the LID activity, but your knowledge base and obviously your work and your career is directly relevant to this work that's taken place by the LID up there. Your presence here is very beneficial to us on the board because of your knowledge base and your willingness to share that. But I think it's more importantly is a huge benefit to your neighbors who are lake residents on Lake Alec and that beautiful resource that we have in the county, but also helping them to understand those issues that come up, not only during the summer, but throughout the year, and how they are addressed correctly by you and the LID up there. So I want to applaud you for taking the time to be here with us, your patience with us, and your willingness to help us understand fully the work that you guys do. And I think as you relayed to Commissioner Wincher's question, when you have 100% support from your membership up there, we don't have to bat an eye that things are taken care of up there. I appreciate it, Bill.
Thanks, Greg.
I just want to say thanks for being here, Dr. Bill, and I just want you all to know too, he's the chair of the Long Prairie One Watershed, One Plan meetings when we have them. He's our chair.
I'm a board supervisor in the Morrison SWCD, as some of you might know, so.
he helps out Morrison County quite a bit.
We're really tapping them for that resource.
Yeah, I know.
I think he serves on the soil and water, I'm not sure. I serve on there with him too. But anyway, I appreciate that. Gentlemen, anything else for him?
Yes.
Commissioner Casper.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Bill, this explanation, I understand all LIDs better just for you being here today. Thank you for your explanation.
I appreciate that.
No
I'm an
problem.
educator, and I've been dealing with and I should mention that I continue to get voted the chair by default. You know, so we do
Lucky.
they are allowed to vote for that, so we get about 150 or 200 cards sent in, and when my name's on there, so I joke with them, well, if you don't like the job I'm doing, I ain't making a lot of money, so, you know, you could be chair if you want. Well, nobody's done that in 18 years, so
I think you're stuck. They love you.
I appreciate that.
Just a question now, Bill.
Yep.
Is it in the fall, just before freeze up, you bring these long arm excavators in to take out the bogs, or how did you
Well,
accomplish that?
that one we did, yeah, and I'd be remiss if I did, because many of you knew Tom Bjorgi. Tom was our bog guy, and Tom was a great friend and colleague and served on the board for many years, but he was the one that got that all set up, because we did it all ourselves through, you know, our Lake Improvement District and our local people and Kenny Zeed and some of the people that did it. But yeah, that one we did because that's when it broke loose. The other one was in the middle of the summer.
Oh, okay.
And we had to close, you know, had the DNR come out and close the access and stuff, and that was, but it worked. And our people, when we talk about these things, you just have to remind them, do you remember that? And there's anybody that's on the lake, they remember that very distinctly, so,
I bet. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
thank you, my
Anything
pleasure.
else, gentlemen? If not, I do have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
No picture? I thought we'd get into, I wanted to be in front of LeBlanc over there, the little guy from St. Cloud State Wrestlers, buddy, right? Thanks, fellas and ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. God bless you.
And thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, Northland Reliability Project. You both can come up if you want. No, don't be shy. All right, that's fine. Please state your name and what do you have to present to us today?
Great, thank you for having me. My name is Brian Hunker, and I work for Great River Energy. I'm here to talk about the Northland Reliability Project.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Appreciate you guys having me. I think I've been here probably about 3 or 4 times now. I come back about every 6 months, so some of this information is going to be a recap of what you've heard before, and some of it's going to be new. You both have, or everybody has the PowerPoint slides printed out as well as the map. So this is a joint project between Minnesota Power and Great River Energy, and it's a new high-voltage transmission line that extends from the Iron Range substation down to the Big Oak substation in Sherburne County. It's a double-circuit 345 kilovolt transmission line, about 180 miles long, and the project includes a new Cuyuna series compensation station, as well as expansions of existing substations at Iron Range, Benton County. The Big Oak substation is a new sub, but it's going to be built by Xcel Energy as a part of the Alexandria to Big Oaks project that was just approved by the commission, Public Utilities Commission, that is, about 2 weeks ago. The transmission line is going to be co-located with existing high-voltage transmission for about 85% of the route. So the project was proposed and approved by MISO, which stands for Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, as a part of their Tranche 1 series of projects. And as you can see, all those projects are highlighted here on the map. Extends from North Dakota to Michigan down to Illinois. There's about 19 projects shown on the map. Ours is in blue. Next slide. So the project has 4, basically, it fulfills 4 needs. And as our generation resources are shifting, as our transmission resources do as well. So this line will help maintain reliability, enable clean energy, and enhance the flexibility on the grid to carry different generation resources and strengthen resiliency on that grid as well. So you can think of our project as 2 segments. The northern portion, shown in orange, is segment 1, and that extends from the Iron Range substation down to the Benton County substation. And that's where the new transmission line is going to be co-located with existing transmission. Segment 2, which extends from Benton County down to Big Oaks and Sherco, is the rebuild or replacement of 2 existing transmission lines. Both of those are roughly 20 miles long. Next slide. So back in August of 2023, we filed an application with the Public Utilities Commission for a route permit and a certificate of need. In October of that same year, the Public Utilities Commission and Department of Commerce hosted scoping meetings. And those meetings were to collect feedback from agencies and public on our proposed route that we filed in the application, as well as, so at that point in time, members of the public or agencies could propose additional route alternatives, alignment alternatives to our proposed route. And the commission would hear those and bring those forward in an environmental assessment. Next slide. So that EA or environmental assessment was published in June of this year. In July, an administrative law judge was assigned to the project, and she held public hearings across the project. And at that point in time, they received comments from the public that would be put onto the docket. So in September, we replied to those public comments, and we proposed 2 routes. I'll get into those in a little bit here. And coming up in November of this year, we anticipate the administrative law judge to publish her report that will be provided to the Public Utilities Commission. Public Utilities Commission will hear our project. We're expecting in the later part of 2024 or early 25, and we'll have a decision from them on that route permit. The bottom of this slide, we have our docket numbers. Should folks choose to follow this docket, you can log in and receive updates on that information. So within those hearings that were held in July, these bullets here are kind of a summary of what we've heard across the project. So general comments were to utilize the existing common corridor, transmission corridor that's on the landscape, maximize distance from homes, reduce agricultural impacts to like center pivot irrigation systems, make sure you take into account mining and other industries that are up there. Specifically to Morrison County here, what we heard again was agricultural impacts, residential impacts such as visual impacts as well as noise. We heard a lot of comments and questions about land rights. When are we going to start that process? What is the value of an easement? What is the difference between a route versus the right-of-way? Those are some of the common questions that we heard at the hearing in Pierce. So, okay, this is our slide that shows the route that we filed in our route permit application in August. There's really not much of a change. You can go to the next slide from what we proposed in September timeframe. So we proposed a modified proposed route and then what's called the co-location maximization route. In Morrison County here, there's really no difference. We tend to follow the existing transmission. In some of the other counties, specifically Crow Wing County, there can be some differences in the route, especially in that Cuyuna mining area. Next slide. So we started field surveys last year with our right of entry agreements. We conducted all of those field surveys here in 2024, so that included wetland delineations, archaeology surveys, noxious weed surveys. We started collecting section corners. Soil borings were done at some of our substation sites, as well as we anticipate starting those down in segment 2. So the 2 rebuilds between the Benton County sub and the Sherco and Big Oaks substations. Next slide, please. So our right of entry process started in 2023, and that was for right of entry for survey. We're going to continue our easement process in 2024 to 26. Construction starting in segment 2 in 25, continuing through 2029, with an in-service date in 2030. The bottom of this slide shows a representation of what our transmission structure will look like. So it is the monopole structure with arms on either side. Each set of arms, a combination of the 3, will carry 1 circuit. So 1 circuit will be on the left side of the structure, The other circuit will be on the right side. And you can see where we're able to build next to existing transmission. We can overlap those rights-of-way by roughly 40 feet, thereby reducing the need for a new right-of-way down to roughly 110, 120 feet, kind of depending upon topography. The graphic on the right shows the segment 2 structures where the existing H-frames will be removed and the monopoles will be installed. Next slide, please. So, again, we started our right of entries in the fall of 2023, and we started our options for easements in the, excuse me, this summer of '24. So right now, landowners have been presented options, and they are looking at those options, addressing any questions that they may have with our land agents. After the route is determined by the Public Utilities Commission, many of those options will be transitioned into an easement. And then we'll be able to move forward with construction and continue any discussions with landowners. Should there be any damage from construction, then we'd be able to mitigate that and address that with the landowner. Next slide, please. So coming up here, we're going to continue with engineering design of the substations and the transmission line. We'll be working with the state and federal agencies on the permitting. So that would be working with the Corps of Engineers on wetland permitting, working with the DNR on crossing protected waters or crossing state lands. As I mentioned, soil borings are going to begin in segment 2 here at the later part of '24. And then we anticipate starting construction in 2025 down in segment 2. We plan to continue with outreach to landowners. We'll continue coming to these venues, presenting to the county boards. Our website's up and running. We have an interactive map on there. Our land agents are in the field, so folks are able to connect with them. And we're going to continue with a newsletter we'll develop, as well as postcard updates as well. Next slide. So this is our link to our website, as well as an email address and a hotline. Thank you, sorry about that. I should have brought out my glass. So that concludes my presentation.
Gentlemen,
Are there any questions?
Comments? Commissioner Casper?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Brian. Brian, I'm just curious, you said you're starting to purchase easements?
Options for easements.
Options for easements?
Correct.
Okay. Did you, do you know how many times those lines need to cross because of, just in Morrison County? Because of building sites and farm sites and such?
How many specific parcels of land?
No, crossings where the 230 has to be crossed over by the 345 because of, or are you just crowding that 230 line over further?
Yeah, so specifically, we do not plan to have any crossings.
Okay,
The new transmission line, the NRP line, will be built adjacent to the existing 230 transmission. So where folks have maybe built an outbuilding or a barn adjacent to our right-of-way, we will realign the existing transmission line to fit both transmission lines around that barn or outbuilding.
I see.
If
So that
there-
345 is crowding on the west side, is that what your intent is?
It would be on, yes, it would be on the west side, yes.
Okay, I'm just curious because I talked to the neighbors. There's still little fireworks, but
Sure, sure,
thank you
yep.
for all your work with them.
Yeah, absolutely,
Appreciate it.
definitely.
Thank you.
Question I have again with Sherco Substation, again, you hear all these rumors. Is that the same place where they're supposedly gonna be shutting those big 2 stacks down, or am I looking at something different?
Yeah, so the Sherco substation is on the south side of the coal-fired plant.
Okay, all right, so then that's gonna go through the coal fire, it's kind of around that area?
It loops around to the west, so it'll loop in between the plant and the Mississippi River.
Okay, all right, and then, does the solar, because there's a big solar farm going up there, does that have anything to
Yeah, the solar farm is currently being built, and it's being built in phases. So the phase that's built right now is to the north and east of the plant.
And again, this has nothing to do with you, but I've had numerous questions. How large is that solar farm? Do you know, is it 800 acres, 10,000 acres? Do you have any idea?
I do not. No, I'm sorry.
It's a huge one.
It's big, yes.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you for that. Commissioner Blaine, do you have something?
No, I don't. This has been very, Brian does an awesome job. I'm glad that you're here again with us and keeping us up to date on this project. It's an important one.
Commissioner Casper?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, one more question.
Sure.
Over at, speaking of Sherco, are some of those coal-fired units being shut down? Are they all being shut down? Or what's going on there with the whole solar?
Yeah, I don't know Excel's exact plans with
Okay.
that plant, but they do have plans to transition it from coal-fired. I don't know if they're gonna completely shut it down or if they're gonna transition it to a different generation source or what they're gonna do with that facility.
They'll probably put some gas engines in there, some rockets that they can,
I think that is some of the talk, but I don't know for certain, so.
okay. Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Again, great information, Brian. We appreciate the semi-annual or annual updates that you give us. So again, it's good information for our people out there in TV land, our papers and everything. So I
Great.
appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the water.
You bet.
Keep up the good work, Brian.
Thanks.
Okay. Land Services, Amy.
Morning, Miss Amy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I've got a couple things for you today. Off the heels of our last planning commission meeting.
State your name for the record.
Yes, Amy Kowalczyk, I'm the Land Services Director.
Thank you.
And I have a couple items. The first one is to consider the conditional use permit request from Blue Waters Holding, also known as Jason Baki. This is to establish a storage rental facility for indoor and outdoor storage. That was recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their last meeting with one condition, and that was outdoor storage must occur on the north side of the building to provide screening from the road.
Gentlemen, I ask for a motion.
I would make a motion to
I need a
approve.
second.
Second.
Any more discussion on the, consider what this would be with your motion and seconds with the one condition?
Yes, that's
Are we
correct.
okay with that?
Yes.
All right, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, and the second item I have is to consider the conditional use permit request from Alex and Natalie Gruber. And this is to expand to a Tier 2 chicken feedlot with the construction of a second chicken barn. This was also recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
I'll move on that, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion, I need a second.
I can second that, Mr. Chair.
Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I have for you, Mr.
Thanks,
Chair.
Amy, appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy. Have a great day.
Thank you, Miss Amy.
You gonna be around the rest of the day sometime?
I will.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Sheriff's report.
Thanks, Bill.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
So yeah, this is just a quick review of September for the monthly report. So I'll introduce myself, Sean Larson, the sheriff, and it'll be September 2024. And as always, we kind of just go over some of the highlights in September. You'll see the first picture is our 9/11 ceremony. This is an annual event. This was our second year. And just a great way to honor the memory of the victims and recognize the first responders and just show our continued support, I guess, basically, for our first responders and military personnel. So we want to continue this, and we want to get bigger every year. Just to highlight, we had the Morrison County and Todd County chaplains involved. We had the American Legion, VFW Color Guard, Legion Riders, Patriot Guard. We had the Vigilant Guardians. We had Bagpipes from Jake McKellen. And Morrison County Veterans Office, Morrison County Admin, and Morrison County Maintenance all helped out. So from law enforcement, we had Morrison County Sheriff's Office, Little Falls Police Department, Motley, Piers, Royalton, and State Patrol. And for fire and EMS, we had Camp Ripley, Motley, Piers, Little Falls, Bolus, Randall, and Upsala. So what a great turnout. So we want to continue that. Underneath that, you'll see Deputy Bering. We had a swearing-in ceremony. And then to the right of that, we had 2 jail promotions. They were promoted from correctional officers to sergeants, and that was Brandon Panitsky and Scott Drong. So we're trying to basically invite family members and coworkers just to share that special moment for these folks, and hopefully moving forward, we can continue that. And I know Matt's attended as well, so. To the right of that, on the top right picture, we had Deputy Jacob Fashing. He's hitting it out of the ballpark. He was awarded by the Minnesota Department of Public Safety and Office of Traffic Safety an honorable mention for the number of DUIs that he's doing in greater Minnesota. So he was recognized there, so he continues to do well for us. And then the bottom right, you'll see we went out to Camp Ripley, and we did this as a mandatory training. And what it does, it's, you know, when I started, it seems like there was always a complaint like, geez, we can never really do things together. We work together, but we're kind of in our own silos. And sometimes that's just the layout of the building and the way our jobs go. So we do a mandatory training where we go out to Camp Ripley once a year. And in this case, we use the Leadership Reaction Course. And basically, it's just team building. It's leadership development, different challenges and different obstacles that we go through, utilizing critical thinking skills. And it just builds camaraderie and just cohesive team building. So in this one, there's certain stations, but we had one of our sergeants say, let's try the hula hoop. And I've never heard of this before. But the hula hoop is basically all team members are putting a finger underneath the hula hoop. And it sounds simple, but you start at eye level and you just kind of go down to your waistline. And if somebody's finger out of that entire group comes off that hula hoop, you have to start over. So basically, someone needs to take command and control. So you're working on your communication, giving direction, and making sure that, you know, you're following through as a team. So it was a great team building exercise. If we go to the next page, you'll notice that we'll highlight the training down on the bottom. We had LEOSA training, and that's Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. So when folks retire, whether it's from the DNR, State Patrol, Sheriff's Office, local PDs, once a year, our firearms instructor will do a shoot for them. And they, by doing this, the federal law allows them to carry concealed anywhere in the United States. We just have to issue them an ID. But they have to go through our qualification course. I think we had 10 different retired officers show up for that. Next page, we had 78 criminal complaints. Just to highlight what we had 12 o'clock position, 5 assaults. We had 3 o'clock position in the orange, 6 DWIs. 5 of those were alcohol, 1 was a controlled substance. Then we had 12 disturbing the peace, 18 property damage, and 18 thefts. The thefts were anything from theft from a person, gas drive-offs, theft from inside a vehicle, shoplifting, and false representation, which is our scams. Moving on to the next slide, we had 295 traffic citation ICRs, so I compared that to last year. And last year we had 187 total. So we've been pretty busy. And then following that, you'll see the comparison. Total complaints have gone up, criminal complaints gone down, non-criminal up, civil process down, and then our drug investigations and total inmates are pretty comparable to last year. And then, of course, we go to our inmates. In Morrison County, for the month of September, we averaged 26. Beltrami, we averaged 19. Total inmate average was 45, including out-of-county inmates. And then the next page, I'll just highlight out-of-county inmates. Of course, we have the Beltrami contract. And we had 36 inmates. We brought in $33,180. So with that, I'll open it up for questions if there's questions.
Question for me, Sheriff, is we know this legalization is coming up very fast. Is there gonna be a different type of training before this, before January first of this year or 2025? Is there something, is this gonna continue as business, or are all the officers gonna have maybe how to identify people that are high on controlled substance?
So legalization of marijuana is already in effect, but, yeah, there's different trainings that we go to, but a lot of it is kind of on the street, figuring out through what's called field sobriety tests. We still have to put these people through tests if we suspect that they're high on something. And if they don't pass these tests, let's say they fail it, then we have enough to get what's called, to get a search warrant. We'd have to apply for a search warrant, which gets signed by a judge, and then it's just a matter of waiting on the results. And unfortunately, that's never really a quick turnaround. Sometimes it could be months before we figure out what was in that person's
And
bloodstream.
I'm assuming as of the first, we're gonna have to have 3 retail distributors minimum somewhere, and that's why, is it gonna increase? Again, who knows? I'm not a foreseer, but it's unfortunate what the police officers what they have to do and all that. I don't need to go in that.
Definitely muddies the waters.
Yes, it does. Gentlemen, anything else? Commissioner Casper.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Sheriff, I just wanted to thank you and your department for your incredible output and rescue of Sophia. That was a real scary situation, and you guys did an amazing job, along with all the other departments.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Yeah, it was a long, drawn-out case, and even if it's only a few days, it's still long. As you can imagine, a parent missing their loved one, but I have to credit everybody involved, and, from dispatch taking the initial information to our deputy doing an amazing follow-up, to our investigators getting involved. And it wasn't that simple. There was a lot of search warrants that needed to take place and need to happen. And because of that and learning different things throughout that case, that's what led them to St. Cloud. And then obviously to be able to rescue her unharmed was amazing. So yes, kudos to everybody involved, and we're very grateful. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Jelinski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, can we go back just a little bit and talk about controlled substance, which necessarily isn't controlled any longer? Let's compare DUI alcohol and a DUI marijuana, for the sake of argument. You stop person X for a DUI, and it's alcohol. Let's just jump to that point. It's alcohol. And that person refuses a test. No big deal. End of discussion. You go through everything that you normally would go through, just refused. Now we're talking about, we believe we're not intoxicated with alcohol, we're intoxicated with marijuana on the other one. And that person refuses. Is this, and I don't know the answer, that's what I'm asking, is this where does that person have the right to refuse? And then can you still apply for a search warrant to take blood? I don't know the answer to that.
So we can apply for a search warrant, but yes, the person ultimately, just like alcohol, can refuse.
Yep.
And then the same thing's gonna apply, the same conditions, the same penalties. However, we're still, from the start to the finish, we're still doing the same tests, if you will.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's no test right now that's available that gives us immediate results if someone's using illegal substances besides alcohol.
Yep. But if I refuse alcohol, and the arresting officer believes that it's alcohol, we're not going any further than that. I just refuse the test.
Correct.
Now, the arresting officer believes it's not alcohol and refuses the test. Are you actually going to that next step and applying for a search warrant to take blood from me? To take it? I'm not giving it to you, you take it.
If they refuse, then it's end of story, just like the alcohol.
Okay, very good. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything else for the sheriff? If not, Sheriff, thank you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate you stopping by.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Have a great day.
Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, keep smiling.
Thank you.
Public Works.
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
All right. This morning I have our
State your name again for the record. I just didn't get that.
Tony Hennon, Morrison County Public Works Director, County Engineer. This morning we have our annual update on the public works side. Mainly going to be touching on road and bridge items. Go to next slide. So there's a nice snapshot. We had a busy construction year in 2024. That's a picture of our County Road 220. One of our structures that we replaced this year. If you go to the next slide, Matt. So if you look at that, we did just underneath $10 million worth of construction this year. You know, some of our highlights, we touched on 41 miles of pavement resurfacing. So that's a nice improvement. You saw the County Road 220 bridge replacement over the Swan. That was a very nice replacement, one of two deficient structures that were replaced here in 2024. The other is hopefully opening up this afternoon or tomorrow morning, was on our CASA 1 just south of 12 there. We also had some HSIP money, so Highway Safety Improvement Funds, outside funds that helped us do some safety improvements on our edge lines. So you saw some sinusoidal and center line markings get placed on a little over 50 miles of road. So that was another nice improvement. And then, you know, our county-wide, well, not quite county-wide, culvert replacements. We were out on County Road 225, 237, and 37, prepping a lot of center line culverts for some of next year's paving. So that was a nice improvement, and those roads will get touched on next year. So if you go to the next slide there, Matt, there's a picture of that 220 box after it was installed. If you saw the first one, all that pipe was lined down the road. Here's what it looks like when it's all done. This was right before they pulled the silt fence. You can see our new turf establishment there, the actual twin box structure there. Go to the next slide. Here's where all those projects were located. You can see we're kind of all over the county this year. We did a big resurfacing up on CASA 1, our CASA 3, and then some of those little ancillaries around that area. See all the dots in the southwest corner there? Those are the culverts. But yeah, if you go to the next page, here's one of our token photos. A lot of people throughout Morrison County love to take this picture. This is on County Road 204. So that pavement was pretty tired. So that's a welcome refresh in that area. Also very photogenic. 2024 pavement markings. This is just one of our maintenance projects. So we try to hit about a third of Morrison County every year with new pavement markings just to give them a refresher. You can see we're in that portion of the county this year. We do get outside of those areas just if we have a higher ADT or higher traffic volume, and we think that pavement needs refreshed. So you can see we're up in the north corner there too. If you go to your next slide. So there's a picture of that CASA 1 bridge that was taken last week. They were just getting done stripping the forms. So as of now, the crane's gone, the pavement's been installed, and it was striped yesterday. Today they're doing their final turf establishment. And so we're hoping either this afternoon or tomorrow that bridge will be open to the traveling public. So that's kind of our construction in a nutshell. As we get into the fall here, we do our annual bridge inspections or bridge safety inspections. So this year, we've got 76 on the docket. Those started in August, September, October, and we'll go into November performing those bridge inspections. We have 2 full-time team leaders on our staff, our assistant engineer, DJ Prom, and then one of our senior engineering technicians, Brady Becker, are both bridge team leaders, so they perform bridge inspections throughout the county on our behalf. And myself, I also have that certification, but I only do a couple just
So
to
Tony, if
maintain
you have
those certs.
76 that you're gonna be inspecting, how many total bridges, culverts do we have? No? Any idea?
Well, so we're also responsible for township culverts and bridges. So we typically, throughout the whole county, we sit right around 230, 232. You know, this upcoming year, we had to, or this past year in May, we closed a bridge for Boot Township on 168th Street. So that resulted from these kind of inspections, we're monitoring the status of these structures, making sure they're safe. And as they start to deteriorate, when we have a high water event, some of the ones that we have flagged will actually go out and look. So that's what happened this spring. We had some high water events. I believe it was in late April, early May. So our staff was kind of around just checking on our structures, and they identified some scary deficiencies in that structure. We didn't want a tractor or something like that to go through that structure. So we ended up working with the township. We closed that down, and then we did a little bit of accelerated design on the township's behalf, and got a new plan into the State Bridge office for the replacement of those culverts with a large box culvert structure. So that'll be a new bridge structure, part of our 2025 program, so we'll be partnering with them. That's the whole point of these kind of inspections. You know, with this many structures inside of our county, you know, it takes a lot of man hours to inspect them, but it is a large safety thing. It's also one of the triggers that helps us gain outside funding for our bridges. You know, so if a bridge is deficient, there's funds available through the state of Minnesota and sometimes at the federal level that we'll try to bring in to help replace our structures. So if we go to the next page, this is called a snooper truck. We bring this out every few years. I think the last time they had it was 2020, 2021. So what it does is it allows us to access some areas that we can't see all the time. So we work with MnDOT and the State Bridge office, and we can actually rent this and an operator, and then that's our staff inside that man bucket there. And then we can go and see the different piers, bearings, and stuff like that are sitting on those piers, and different elements that we typically wouldn't be able to get to during a normal routine inspection.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jazinski.
Tony, where do we rent that from the state or from someone?
Yep, so the State Bridge office has a couple different snooper trucks, and then we partner with the state, or they call it state aid.
Yeah.
And we're able to partner with them and their bridge office to help bring that in.
And obviously, the importance of doing it like this, I would assume that otherwise we would be stuck in a rowboat, I would guess, or pontoon of some kind to check this stuff out, and the hassles with that. This has got to be just second to none doing it like this.
Yeah, this gives you a hands-on approach, so you're able to actually get into the areas that you couldn't access. Even if you're on a pontoon or a small
Yeah.
barge there, you still wouldn't be able to see those bearings on top of that pier. So a lot of times what our staff is utilizing are different binoculars and stuff like that, and just trying to maintain a good view of it. And that's why we bring a vehicle like this in every so often, so we actually get a hands-on view.
Very impressive. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tony.
All right, our maintenance staff was busy this year. Got a picture of the guys crack sealing there. So go to the next one there, Matt. Thank you. So this past year, we did 6 different centerline culverts with our own staff. And then they also had a very busy summer with access culverts. So your driveway pipe, they installed 50 of them. And then outside of that, just our routine patching, our crack sealing, mastic patching we've been kind of experimenting with, mowing, brushing, sign maintenance. So big year on crack sealing and mastic. The maintenance staff sealed over 72 miles of road this year, kind of a function of the not heavy winter. And then mastic, we also put out 2 truckloads of that, just shy of 93,000 pounds of a mastic material, which is a patch material with a little bit of aggregate in it. So you'll see that on some of our roadways. As we get into winter, we continue on with our snowplow safety. You know, this is always a fun project. This year we went to 10 different elementary schools and talked with over 563 second graders about snowplow safety. Go to the next. We have a couple pictures here. But what it does, it just talks about our equipment. Obviously, children typically are drawn to large equipment, and so what we try to talk to them about is, 1, what's the purpose of it? 2, they can get a kind of upfront and personal view of the equipment, so maybe take away some of that curiosity. But 3, and most importantly, so they understand that they need to stay out of the way when something like this comes. You know, that big side wing there, if that's pushing a snowbank back, something like that, it may be appealing for a child to maybe get a snow spray or something, but in reality, it's very dangerous. You know, so having these conversations up front with the children just brings a little bit of awareness to them, and hopefully tackles some of that curiosity. Got a few thank you cards. They're always fun. So I'll touch on our winter last year. So we had a nice light winter. You know, so in 23 through 24, that winter season, our full crew only went out 18 times. So that was pretty nice. You know, our typical season's 28, and if you remember the year prior, we were north of 50. You know, so this was a welcome lapse.
When
So
you ran out of salt.
we ran out of salt twice that year, but, you know, so we were able to save a bit of salt this year, and more so on the labor hours is where we save a lot of our county funding. But what it allows us to do is do a lot of other maintenance activities in the wintertime. So last year you would have seen our crews out brushing a lot more than usual and doing some of our right-of-way clearing, which is really important, especially with the size of our system. Go to the next page there, Matt. So as we get into winter, I'm just kind of give everyone our friendly reminder. We have a big system here in Morrison County, you know, 728 miles, you know, about 40 of that's gravel. The rest is paved roads, either CASA or our county state aids or county road system. Next one. You know, and what we do is we run 20 plow routes. And you can see the green dots there, those are our 3 hubs. You know, so we have our main hub here in Little Falls that dispatches trucks. We have a smaller hub up in Randall that dispatches trucks, and then a shop out in Pierce that dispatches trucks. Go to your next slide. So 20 plow routes for 2024-25. We're going back to our old system. So one of the other highlights we'll get to in a little bit was we finally got into our new building, and it allowed us to go back to our normal dispatch routes. So if you remember from the previous years, we were dispatching extra trucks out of Pierce and extra trucks out of Randall. So now we're going back to kind of everybody's home base. So 11 trucks will be coming out of Little Falls, 6 out of Pierce, and 3 out of Randall. Our average route, 45 miles, and they take about 6 to 8 hours to complete. As always, if you have any questions on road conditions, MnDOT 511 is an excellent resource. MnDOT runs a lot of different GPS, and they have some dash cam options, so it's kind of neat to see some of their equipment. But what it does is gives you a read on what MnDOT's state highways look like. And oftentimes, our county highways are in similar condition or sometimes better, depending when our crews go out. Next slide. Building update, I kind of touched on it, but March, we moved into our new building, so that's been a really welcome addition. And then, like I said, getting all our plow routes back in order. But what a wonderful asset for Morrison County and its constituents. You know, the building's 100 foot wide, 220 foot long. You can see that giant brine tank there, so that's one of our new capabilities. Previously, you know, we've been getting brine from MnDOT, one of our partners. Hit the next slide. And now with this building, we're gonna have the capability of making that brine in-house and starting to experiment with some of those de-icing chemicals ourselves. So as we get up and running over the next couple of years, we'll experiment with that and try to be the most cost-effective and provide a safe transportation route or system for everyone. There's our shot. We had this here in October. That was one of our safety meetings. So had almost everybody there. We were shy 6 employees that day. But that's your current Morrison County Public Works staff. Short 6 people, I guess. So with that, that's kind of a wrap on my annual update. We did make some park changes this upcoming year, so you'll see some neat park things happening over the next couple of years. You know, we've touched on the ADA access project out at Belle Prairie and stuff like that. So we'll continue to chase grants and make improvements to our parks and trails.
Any
system.
questions, concerns for Tony? Again, great information. I really like this series, so that's, again, for the public too to see. Can they see this stuff online? Do they have this available too? On the website, I should say?
I don't believe it's online, but we could possibly pop it on our county website.
Yeah, everybody
Kind
likes to look at interesting, especially with winter coming up.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question?
Sure.
Tony said the bridge there south of, that's on 1 south of 12, open probably tomorrow. With the pipe replacement that took place early this year on 225, does that mean that 225 will get a resurface next year?
220?
Or,
We did the boxes on 220, and then we did pipe on 225.
Yep.
And we did pipe on 237 and 37. So yeah, we're anticipating for next year, we haven't finalized our 25 paving program at this point, but that was one of the reasons why we started doing all those center lines. So we're hoping By getting these center lines in this year, we'll alleviate any unnecessary settling that may take place.
Yep.
And so when we come and pave those roads either next year or the year after, you should have a nice smooth roadway.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, Tony, thank you very much.
Very
Appreciate it.
nice, very nice.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Gentlemen,
day.
can we just take a $5 for everybody here?
Up to good work.
Let's take a 5. Why wouldn't we take a 5?
We'll do that.
We're unmuted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one item for the board's consideration. I'm requesting to go into a closed session, or for the board to hold a closed session November 5th at 10:30. Background on that matter is, as you all know, the county, along with Richardson and Lee Townships, are currently in litigation matters between us as plaintiffs and the Bureau of Indian Affairs regarding some property in northeastern Morrison County that has been put into trust by the band. Yesterday, well, I should rewind, last week, the magistrate sent out a court order directing that we conduct a settlement conference. And basically, that's a court order to try to get the two entities to come to an agreement prior to it going any further. Yesterday, County Attorney, along with myself and representations from Richardson and Lee Townships, met with our counsel and received an update from him. And with that, we have additional information to provide to the board. So again, requesting a closed session November 5th, 10:30, in conjunction with our next scheduled board meeting.
Are you guys good with that, gentlemen?
Perfect.
I'm good with it.
No.
Okay.
No, just we'll notice it. We've got time to do so. I just wanted to give a heads up to that. That's what we'll be discussing on the matter.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing else for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, moving along, Tabitha, what are the dates?
They start October 27th through November 9th.
October 27th through November 9th. You know what, let's start with Commissioner Jelinski. He's always very efficient on these. So what do you got for us?
Right, starting on the 28th, 10 o'clock in the morning, I'll be in the city of St. Cloud at an SCCB planning meeting. At 4:30 that afternoon, Commissioner Blaine, we've got a Good Neighbors EMS meeting at St. Gabe's.
Got her on the calendar.
The 29th, 8:30 in the morning, here in the boardroom, we're gonna have a planning meeting. And that evening at 6 p.m., we'll have a PCBOA meeting. On the 1st of February, 8:30 in the morning, we've got a planning meeting at TSWAC, or at the landfill, what we call TSWAC. On the 4th, on the 5th of November, 9 o'clock in the morning, we've got a county board meeting here in the county boardroom. And after the county board meeting is concluded, we will have a closed session with the Bureau, or dealing on the Bureau of Indian Affairs. On the 7th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a SECB Legislative Committee meeting that's held virtual. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe there's also voter canvassing, and I don't know who's been picked for that. But is that taken care of already? Because I don't know.
Greg or Bobby, right?
I'm guessing.
Could be one of you three.
What day is that?
That, I have the 7th of November for voter canvass.
They just approve the vote, that's how.
Okay,
But
okay.
again, you wanna use three.
12th.
Yeah, and it's not gonna be me.
Yeah, it is the 12th, and a good thing, 'cause
Oh, it's the 12th?
Yeah, at 11:30.
Okay, very good. And
7th is,
you guys have got that taken care of?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So I'm wrong. That's fine.
That's the first time.
First time, yeah. The 8th of the month, 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a RAC meeting scheduled, and that's virtual. And as it is right now,
We're good till the
I
ninth?
believe that's all I've got.
All right, Commissioner Casper.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the only thing I have beyond what Commissioner Jelinski has said is I have a Zoom meeting or a virtual on Thursday, November 7 at 10 o'clock for Central Minnesota Council on Aging.
All right, Commissioner Blaine.
Did we mention the cannabis deal at the PCBOA on the 29th?
But that's part of the piece.
That's part of that, that'll be part of
But
that.
yeah, that'll be
that-
there, yeah,
that
there's a
hearing.
meeting.
From 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Tuesday, the 29th, I will have a Mississippi One Watershed, One Plan Policy Committee meeting at the Crow Wing County Land Services Building,
28th or 29th?
29th. Reminder that on November 5th, it's election day. And on the 9th, firearm deer season starts.
Oh, geez, forgot about that.
Okay.
That's all I got there, big guy.
All right,
Craig, I
Commissioner
appreciate
Lemire.
the heads up, thank you.
For some reason, the 28th, I have HRA down, so if it's wrong, I'll reach out to you.
Okay.
The 29th, I have written down cannabis discussion. Is
That's
that
a
gonna be
plan-
within
that's
the
a plan.
meeting?
That's
Okay.
the
PCB
public
will
hearing.
do that.
Okay. And I think that's it. No, yellow ribbon on the 4th, 3:30. That's it, that'd be about it.
And
all I could say
myself,
about
I
that.
will not be attending the T-SWAC. I'll be up in Walker for the ribbon cutting for Northern Pines Mental Health. That's at 8:30 in the morning, so I'll be up there for that because I chair Northern Pines, so that'll be that. Otherwise, you got me covered.
Mr. Chair, just two other items on the calendar during this period. First is October 30th, Morrison County, through our Little Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, is going to host a candidate forum, debate of sorts for representatives, folks running for state representative. That'll be October 30th, 6 to 8 p.m. here in the boardroom. And then on October 31st, Halloween, in addition to please be careful out there and watch out for the little goblins, Morrison County is taking part in the Chamber's trick-or-treating. So here in the Government Center from 3:30 to 4:30, families and children are welcome to come trick-or-treat county staff.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Did you read this?
All right, then at this time, it is 10:33. We adjourn. Thank you, Mr.